This one's kind of sneaky. You should study one acting method and stick to it. Really. And we believe that? Okay, so I call this one sneaky because unlike some of the myths we've covered in this series, there's actually some good advice hiding inside the bad advice. And there's a real idea underneath it, a defensible idea even. So let me give the myth its due before I poke at it, okay? If you're brand new and you're jumping from workshop to workshop, a little Meisner here, a little Strasberg there, a weekend of Chekhov technique, a Tuesday night drop-in at somebody's living room class, you're probably not going deep enough into anything to actually build skill. You're collecting vocabulary without learning to speak. Go deep before you go wide is genuinely good advice. Take it seriously. Find a teacher or a program that works for you and commit to it long enough to actually learn something. That part of the myth is real. The problem is when that advice hardens into you should only ever study one method, and mixing approaches is dangerous, and my personal favorite, if you study anything else, you'll contaminate your instrument. Your instrument is not a chemistry experiment. It doesn't get contaminated. Now here's a quick history lesson, and I promise I'll keep it short. Most of what we call the methods, Stanislavski, Meisner, Strasberg, Adler, Hagen, Chekhov, they didn't come from different planets. They're all branches of the same tree. Now Stanislavski, he's basically the trunk. Almost every major Western acting teacher in the 20th century either studied under him, studied under someone who did, or was reacting against what he wrote. So when a teacher tells you that Meisner and Adler are incompatible, they're telling you that two of Stanislavski's own students, people who worked together and argued together in the same city at the same time, developed ideas you can't possibly hold in your head at once. Well, that's a little suspicious, right? Different methods do emphasize different things. Meisner puts you in the present moment with your scene partner. Strasberg pulls from emotional memory. Adler insisted on imagination over personal trauma. Chekhov is physical gesture and psychology. But they're real differences, real craft choices, but they're not religions. I mean, you're not picking a denomination. Look, I was at the Southeast Actors Summit again a couple months ago, and the most eye-opening session of the whole weekend was Amanda Lenker-Doyle, a casting director, doing live evaluations of 24 audition tapes. Same scene, same breakdown, 24 actors. You know what the number one problem was across almost every tape? It wasn't wrong method. Nobody in the room said, well, she was using Meisner when this scene clearly calls for Adler. But that's just not a thing. The problem was that actors were performing the scene instead of being in it. One-note energy, not listening to their readers, trying to be funny instead of being in the moment. And the standout? An actress who was, by Amanda's own words, objectively wrong for the role. Wrong look, wrong type, but she was so committed and so present that Amanda would have sent her to producers anyway. Nobody asked what method she studied. Nobody cared. She was just in it. Same summit, different speaker, Chase Paris, another casting director, ran a live Zoom audition. His observation across every single actor, the best take was always the one closest to their natural personality. Not the most technically impressive, the most real. Dwayne Boyd taught the room a POV formula on day one. Jason Lockhart taught Patsy Rodenberg's 3 circles on day 2. Chase Paris taught lead with yourself on day 3. 3 different speakers, 3 different frameworks. None of them from the same method. All of them useful. All of them stacking on top of each other. That's what a toolbox looks like, right? You pull what works from wherever you find it. Now here's my version. For what it's worth, I started acting at 60. I had 0 formal conservatory training. 0. What I did have was 41 years of showing up. 20 on active duty in the Navy, 21 as a civilian. Learning to be prepared, to be professional, to read a room, and to listen to the person in front of me before I opened my mouth, which, by the way, I was not always good at. When I got into acting, I didn't pick a method. I read books, a lot of them, Stanislavski, Meisner, Adler, practical aesthetics. I took classes from different teachers. I watched what worked on set and what didn't, and I built my own toolkit, one piece at a time, based on what actually helped me book and deliver. My process now? I read the script, I analyze the character, I figure out who this person is, what they want, and what happens if they don't get it. I rehearse, I record, I submit, and then I go have dinner with my wife. That should sound familiar because I said the same thing in the suffering episode. Because it's the same answer. Preparation beats ideology every time. If you locked me in a room and forced me to name my method, I'd probably call it showing up prepared and being present. That's it. That's the whole system. Everything else is just tools that help me do those two things better. Now, I said at the top that there's good advice hiding in the bad, so let me say this plainly. If you find a great teacher who has built a coherent, integrated approach, someone who has done the work of synthesizing multiple influences into something that works, stay with them. Go deep. That kind of mentorship is rare and worth committing to. The problem was never study deeply. The problem is the belief that loyalty to a label protects you from confusion, that curiosity about other approaches is somehow a betrayal. It's not. I mean, curiosity is the whole job. So you should study one acting method and stick to it? Go deep? Yes, absolutely. Stick to one method and never look sideways? Well, that's not craft. That's orthodoxy, and orthodoxy doesn't book jobs. Your job is to tell the truth on camera. Whatever helps you do that is your method. Borrow it from wherever you find it. Keep what works. Come back for the rest later. The best method is the one that disappears when the camera rolls. Hey, you want to go deeper? Well, I wrote more about this at gary-mason.com/blog. The link is in the description. New myths busted every week. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.